Guy that I was smoking weed with uh, was Rocky's manager. And one day he asked me if I'd be interested in going to the studio with Rocky. And I said, "Oh my God, yeah. He's one of the greatest rock and roll vocalists, uh, of the period. One of them ever, really. I mean, that guy could scream his ass off." Uh, and so we got introduced, and Rocky had this. He was always testing. He had this kind of his personality was that he would do stuff just to provoke, just to see how you would react. And once I passed the test, uh, we went in the studio and I worked closely with his musical director Dwayne Aklaskin, lead guitar player in the Aliens, and Bill Miller, the electric auto harp player, was uh, was also instrumental in helping me get inside of Rocky's head. They'd known each other for quite a while. I think he might have been from Texas as well. Uh, but yeah, Rocky was sometimes he was there, sometimes he wasn't. He had a lot of personal struggles. Uh, he ran into some problems with the law and marijuana early on in Texas, which was never a good thing. And rather than go to jail, they put him in a mental institution, which didn't help him out much. In fact, when we were recording The Evil One, we were doing the vocals down in Austin at a studio owned by this guy. What's his name? Maybe it'll come to me. Anyway, he wrote the song Muskrat Love for Captain and Tennille. He's like a Texas legend kind of guy. Anyway, he owned this studio, and I'd have to put on a coat and tie and go up to the Rusk Mental Institution and and check Rocky out and take him down the studio. We do the vocals, and after a while, he'd start to drift. Start talking to his manager about, well, what about that apartment you're going to get me, Craig? I said, Rocky, I think we're done. We're done for the day. Driving back. Whenever I went to get him, I had the coat and tie on, and all the other inmates would come up to me and say, "Hey, can you get me out? Can you get me out?" And I go, well, finally, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. And so I asked one of the supervisors what's going on, and they said, "Oh, you got a coat and a tie on. They think you're a doctor, and they
They can
see you
write a
getting
bit
Rocky
prescription
out.
in.
They see you getting Rocky out. They want to know if you can get them out too." But yeah, you know, working with Rocky was where I really learned how to be a producer, just how to get more out of an artist with their cooperation, and just try keep everything positive. Don't try and work it to death, try and keep the flow, loose and things naturally, and don't worry about little things, little out of tune here, little this, little that, yeah, whatever, but is the performance good? Is it real? The boy Rocky was real when he was really performing. I mean, there was just nobody could top him. He would nail it. He would know, I want to go back and do this part. Try and do this and do this again. And so he was involved uh, when he was there. When he
Right.
was focused, he was really there. And he was funny. Oh my God, we would I would always run a two-track tape machine, always when we were working, so that I could capture everything that, like in between takes while we're rewinding the tape, we'd be talking and Rocky would be blowing our minds with things, and so we recorded everything. I don't know where that stuff is because his manager just recently passed away. I think there's a guy in Texas that may have access to all those archives. But I mean, hours and hours of stuff. And sometimes we couldn't fit it all on the 16 track. So I would have, rather than erase something that we already had, that we weren't sure, we didn't want to stop to comp it down, and free up the tracks, I would just record it on the 2 track, and then we just wild sync it in. We just like push record, push start, and hope that it dropped in. Uh, and because we couldn't manipulate it like you can with digital, drag it a beat or a half a beat, a half a second this way or that way. And so it took hours and hours and hours to do some of this stuff. But sometimes Rocky'd bring in a song and he had it all kind of backwards. He had it all there, but it would be backwards from a song, the story point of view. Like he'd be singing the last verse first, for example. And so I would have to, rearrange it all for him and, get the band on board and, okay, this is the way it's going to be. This is the way you're going to do it always. And my biggest thrill was when we finished with The Evil One and Rocky heard it. And he said, I really like that. I think Stu did a great job. And he used to call me Buzzy. He buzzes around all the time. Where'd you come up with that? He said, you're just always buzzing around. And I'm saying, well, I'm just trying to keep up with you, man.
Amazing. What's happening with that record? Because it's not, I don't think it's on Spotify.
Well, we recorded 15 songs and they were split between 2 albums. The first one was The Evil One on CBS UK. And then TEO, which is The Evil One, right, abbreviated. The first one had the wild collage color photo album cover done by Captain Colors, who was another local legend artist. Then the second one, TEO, was on 415 Records, Howie Stein's label in San Francisco. And that had the black and white with the open door and the light shining through it. And so we got 2 albums out of these 15 songs. So there was obviously some duplication between the releases, but one was a foreign release and the other was a domestic release. So nobody seemed to mind. I mean, nobody at the labels minded. Everybody liked the songs. And now, since then, it's been re-released and re-released and re-released and re-released. The last really good release was a 3-album anthology called by a label in the Pacific Northwest called Light in the Attic.
Yeah.
And the first album is my 15 songs. Then the second album has a lot of other people's recordings and live recordings, later recordings. I think Dwayne might have produced some of them, and I'm not sure what's on the third one. More outtakes and stuff like that. But it's a pretty complete Rocky collection. Somewhere around here, I have it all on vinyl. It was a really nice package. And now, actually, other people are starting to cover Rocky songs.